Well, hi everyone. Welcome to our new webinar. This is about Sovryn. For those ones who've been waiting, I want to tell you all that I'm very sorry. There was a mistake around the time. It's 7 p.m. in the United Kingdom and not 7 p.m. in Gibraltar, as it was announced. I'm so sorry for that. I sent you an email with the links if you want to watch the recording, and if you couldn't, and if you need to leave afterwards, everything will stay recorded and we'll upload it to our YouTube channel. Well, today we have two very important, how can I tell them, developers, entrepreneurs. They want to change the world. They are here, Yago and Ororo. And well, they created over the past few months Sovryn, which is a great solution. It's a decentralized Bitcoin trading and lending platform. There's nothing like that created so far. It's a DeFi solution, and it will help us create open finance. And well, they will tell us a little bit more about it, a little bit more, much more in depth during this hour that will last this webinar. As always, you can write anything you want, your comments, your questions. We will be reading it. We will be sharing some links. We will try to answer all your questions as long as this webinar takes place. And we will also have a Q&A session after the demonstration ends, and so please stay tuned. And well, the stage is all for you. I'll go backstage, and thanks again for joining us.
Hi everyone, nice to have this opportunity to talk to you all. My name's Yago. With me here is Ororo. And we have both been working on the Sovryn project, which we're excited to share with you today. So I'm going to ask you to give us answers to a poll in a moment. But I think one of the things that maybe is true for many of you is you've been in Bitcoin for a while. Some of you for longer, some of you for a shorter period of time. Ororo and I have also been in Bitcoin for a while, and one of the things that has always bothered us is that Bitcoin is this decentralized currency that gives us control over our economic destiny. It allows us to control our funds and to have the ability to move our funds and do with our funds as we please without having to ask permission from a bank or from a government or from a payments company. And then we take this decentralized, censorship-resistant, permissionless money and we put it into a centralized exchange where we give up all of that control, all of that power, all of that sovereignty. And this always bothered us. And so it's long been our hope that somebody would build a decentralized, permissionless way of lending, borrowing, trading, and generally just having financial activity with Bitcoin. And we waited and waited and waited, and nobody did. So eventually, a bunch of us decided that we were going to have to do it ourselves. And that's how Sovryn started. Many of the people who are working on Sovryn, in the same way that Satoshi maintained privacy, and in the same way that we hope our users will be able to preserve their privacy and pseudonymity, have chosen not to work under their real names, but to work under pseudonyms. Ororo is one of them. And so she will introduce herself soon. What I would like to do is tell you a little bit about the project. Then Ororo will tell you a little bit about how we built the project. And then we'll show you how it works and how you yourself can use it, because it's live now and you can try it out. So what is Sovryn? Sovryn is a smart contract platform built on RSK, which allows you to take Bitcoin and trade it or swap it for other tokens. Right now, you can swap it for dollar on chain, which is a stable coin backed by Bitcoin, which exists on RSK. And very soon, you'll be able to swap it for other stable coins and for other tokens as you see fit. It also lets you go trade with leverage. So you can decide to go long Bitcoin or short Bitcoin or long other tokens or short other tokens up to 5x. And soon we hope to increase it to be up to 20x with perpetual swaps. And that's really cool because it allows you to do something which we call hyper hodling. And what is hyper hodling? Well, if you're like me, you don't have any fiat, right? All of your funds are already in Bitcoin, but you think Bitcoin's going to keep going up. So what do? Well, with hyper hodling or going trading long Bitcoin with leverage, you can basically buy more Bitcoin with your Bitcoin, and you do this by borrowing dollars to buy more Bitcoin using your Bitcoin as collateral. You could also choose to go short Bitcoin if you think the market's going to crash. But what we've seen from people using our system is that almost nobody does. Everyone seems to want to go long. The other thing that you can do is you can lend or you can borrow. So let's say you've got Bitcoin. That's awesome. And you've been hodling that Bitcoin for a long time. But it would be nice if you could earn more Bitcoin. And that's something we call super stacking, right? Not just growing your stack, but letting your stack grow itself. And so you can lend out your Bitcoin to people who want to borrow it for whatever reason. Maybe they want to go short, and then you can make money off of their stupidity. Or maybe they want to use it in arbitrage trades, or they want to use it for remittance purposes, or to provide liquidity to the AMM. For all of these reasons, people might want to borrow your Bitcoin, and maybe you want to borrow Bitcoin for similar reasons. So all of those things are now possible in a decentralized, extremely easy to use platform that we will be showing you in a moment. Before I ask Ororo to tell you a little bit about how the system works and how it was built, I'd like to ask you guys to answer some questions in the poll so that we can know a little bit about how you are currently using your funds and your Bitcoin. So if you look at the little section with the polls, you'll see there's an opportunity for you to answer these questions, and then we will all be able to see your answers. The first question is, have you used RSK or Rootstock, the Bitcoin sidechain on which Sovryn is built? Second question is, have you ever used tokenized Bitcoin on Ethereum like WBTC or RenBTC? And the third is, have you ever used a centralized exchange like Binance or Coinbase or Kraken? I think we'll give you guys 10 seconds to answer these questions, and then we'll ask to see the answers. While we're waiting, I'll also let you know that there is a chat function here, and if you guys ever want to ask a question or ask us to repeat something or explain anything, just submit your message into the chat box and we should be able to see it. Francisco, do you know how we can see the responses to the polls? Okay, so Francisco, I think maybe will let us know what the answers are. Oh, actually, I can see the answers. So it looks like everyone's used a centralized exchange. It looks like half of you have used tokenized Bitcoin on Ethereum. And it looks like 80% of you have used RSK. So if you are here, I'm assuming that means that you've used centralized exchange. You probably have used tokenized Bitcoin on Ethereum. And what you're trying to do is stop having to use both of those things. And if that's the case, then you are in the right place. So I'd like to hand it over to Ororo to tell us a little bit about how Sovryn is built and how it works and keeps funds non-custodial and safe.
Hi, everybody. Glad for this opportunity to speak to you here. In general, I think it's the easiest if I can tell you about how the system works while sharing my screen and showing you how it looks like. So also you have something to look at. Give me a second. Okay, so like Yago said, Sovryn is about margin trading and lending at this point and will be extended in the future to add more features and provide more opportunities. And we started off forking projects on Ethereum, take their code, which is already audited and proven to work, and adapted it for our needs, improved some of the code, and are still continuing down this road. We're also having our own audits made on top, just to make sure that our system is as secure as it can be. And here you can see the trading page, and you can see that you can basically go long or you can go short. If you go long, you can choose the leverage, which is up to 5 times at the moment. You will see the liquidation price change accordingly. And if you enter an amount which you would like to trade, you can also see the interest changing, even if it's only a little difference is there. This is because the interest rate is based on supply and demand. This means if I go long Bitcoin, I borrow DOC, and the system will exchange it for me to Bitcoin, and it will be held in Bitcoin until the point when I close the position, or if it gets liquidated by someone else, because I do not add margin when required. So if a lot of people want to borrow DOC, then the interest rate goes up. And if little people want to borrow it, or if there are just too many people who want to stake their DOC, then the interest rate will be lower. The short works similar. Here you can see that the interest rate is much lower than on the long side. This is because for going long, you have to borrow DOC, and almost everybody using our system is long at the moment. So the DOC supply is quite limited by now, while the Bitcoin supply is still quite big because nobody wants to go short. This might also change in the future, not just with people going short, but we will enable the borrowing functionality in a couple of days. And as soon as borrowing is enabled, then people can borrow Bitcoin for other means as well, which should increase the demand for Bitcoin. So you can make better profit when lending to the system. Here again, you can see that currently we have a max limit on the trades. It's 0.0021 Bitcoin or $21 on the other side. And this is just because we're still in a test phase, but the limits will be raised also in a couple of days. I can place a trade here. And I will quickly do it. Oh, actually, now I took a 5-time short position, which might not be a wise idea then later. As you can see, I already have a mix of different short and long positions, which is because if I do not take short positions, then we will not have anything to test. People really have to start going short. Here you can also see the trades which are currently open. You can top up to add more collateral to a position. And you can also close positions. Let's maybe close this one, which is imperfect. You can also decide to not close it completely, but only partially. So what closing does on the smart contract is it takes your loan. This is a Bitcoin long position, so it takes the Bitcoin collateral, transfers it back to DOC, pays back the lender, and gives me the profit. And I can choose in which currency I would like to withdraw the profit by choosing either Bitcoin or DOC. So it's absolutely my choice, always. Also here we can see that the trade was successful, even if the trading history is not yet updated. And also when starting a trade, I can choose which currency I want to provide. It doesn't change anything afterwards because the position is anyway held in the same position and the same currency. So if you go Bitcoin long, it will always be held in Bitcoin. If you go Bitcoin short, it will always be held in DOC. It's just for your convenience. So you can choose the currency you want to use, and you can use the complete system without having to hold any other coin but Bitcoin. The trading history. Currently, our system is still slow, which will also improve the upcoming days. But here now you can see the active trade is the DOC short position, which I opened earlier. So this is a trading page. So what the trading page does, just to summarize again, it takes a loan from the lending pool, it converts the loan into the other currency, like in case of Bitcoin to Bitcoin, in case of Bitcoin short to DOC, and at some point in the future pays back the loan. The other side is the lending interface. Here you can supply funds to the lending pool so people can take up loans to trade. And you can choose to either supply Bitcoin or DOC. And in the future, we will add more currencies. We are currently working at the B Pro integration, and more currencies will follow. You can see that also here the interest rates are different, which is because, like I explained before, supply demand on the Bitcoin side, there is much more supply than demand. And on the DOC side, there's way more demand. This is why the interest here is higher. I can lend DOC, or I can withdraw at any time. I can see how much I lent in the first place, what's my profit so far, and yes, check out history. And finally, you can see all of the stats at the stats section, which shows you, like, the main information here is the demand and the supply, how much funds were supplied, how much funds are borrowed, and what's currently available, and the interest rates derived from it. So here you can always have a look at what the system is currently looking like. For trading the tokens, for trading Bitcoin for DOC and the other way around, we're using an AMM, which we're also running ourselves, which was originally forked from Banker. And there will be another page for providing liquidity to this AMM as well. So you can also make profit as a market maker. So basically there are then 3 different ways to use the system, or basically 4. It's trading, it's lending, it's borrowing, and it's providing liquidity to the trading AMM. Yes, so much about the system. I'm not sure how much I should go into technical detail here because I do not know what's your main interest. So I think it's better if I ask you the questions and give my best to answer them.
Right. So now would be a great time if you guys have questions or things you'd like to know or better understand. about the system, how it's working, or what our plans are for the system, you can type in your questions and we'll do our best to answer. While you are typing, maybe I'll tell you a little bit about where the system currently is. So right now the system is live on mainnet, but is being tested. And so because it's being tested, we have a whitelist. So you need a special OG NFT, an OG key, in order to access the system. If you'd like to get one, let us know and we can distribute one to you. The best place to let us know is in our Discord or in our Telegram. You can also follow us on Twitter, where we're constantly giving away keys. We will also be providing special benefits to the people who receive these keys, because the people who receive these keys and give us feedback are helping us improve the system for later users. They are the earliest members of our community, and we will try to give them various benefits over time. One of the things that we're going to be doing in the very near future is we're going to be releasing a new user interface, which it has even more functionality than what you just saw, and I think it's also much prettier. And a big part of our goal is always to try and make the system as easy to use as possible. Ideally, using a decentralized system, a censorship-resistant system, should be pleasurable and as easy or even more convenient than using a centralized system, because people shouldn't have to be technical in order to be free, and people shouldn't have to give up convenience in order to maintain their sovereignty. So one of the questions right now is around scripts for IPFS, so that we have an additional layer of privacy. I'll talk a little bit about this, and then I'll let Ororo give a slightly more in-depth answer. So it's very important for us to help users preserve their anonymity or pseudonymity when they're using the system. And to help preserve privacy, we obviously don't require you to register in any way, but we plan on introducing a number of other features. So one of the things that we're planning to do in the near future is make it accessible, make the website accessible via Tor. We also are planning on allowing for a distributed and decentralized front end, possibly using IPFS, possibly using Fabric, and we actually already allow you to download the front end, and this in fact happens automatically, so that you are using the front end on your own client without having to trust us or go through our servers in order to use the system. And then we also would like to introduce shielded transactions into the system, so that the transactions are anonymized and privacy is actually enhanced when you're using our system. Aurora, would you like to add something around that question?
Oh, sorry. No, I muted myself instead of unmute. I think he already answered the question very extensively. So yes, we do plan to do so. And yeah, maybe just one tiny detail to add regarding the front end. I think you can actually also use it while being offline. I mean, well, you cannot communicate with the node, but in theory, you could use the complete front end without any connection.
So some of the other questions that they're asking you, and I think this would be a great question for you, Ororo. Galimba asks, how do you think keeping your developers' anonymity affects users' trust in the platform?
Well, I think, you know, the goal of Sovryn is also to allow all of the users to keep their Bitcoin, work with their Bitcoin, use all of the financial applications without having to dox themselves, to allow them to keep their pseudonymity. So I think it's just fitting that we at Sovryn also keep the pseudonymity for our team members. I think this actually aligns our motives and our values pretty much with those of our users.
I would also add to that the beauty of an open source system is that you actually don't have to trust anyone. So if you're using a centralized system, you really need to know who's behind it, because you need to know that they're not going to run away with your funds, or they're not going to perform activity which is going to get them in trouble with the regulator, and the regulator will take your funds. But in a permissionless, non-custodial system, you don't need to trust anyone. You never give up control of your funds. All of the code is publicly available and publicly auditable. And so instead of having trust, you have verification. You can always verify that the system is working the way it's supposed to be working, that the permission set is supposed to be the way it is, that your funds are never in control of a third party. And being able to verify is far more powerful than having to trust. And then another question, which is a good follow-on to that question about verification: what parts of the system have been audited, front end, contracts, etc.? Ororo?
Sorry, I was distracted by the chat. I had to read the answer there. Which parts of the system are being audited, front end, contract, etc.? Okay. By the way, there's a button, Start Live Answer. Do we have to click it?
No, I don't.
Okay. So yeah, currently the smart contracts are being audited. A part of them was already audited, another part is still in the audit process. And we will also let all of the scripts which are relevant for the security of our system be audited, which includes the liquidation watcher, as well as rollover watcher, and yes, I mean, maybe even at some point the front end, although currently we do not have it on the roadmap.
Another question that we're being asked is, are we planning to include some form of governance?
Yeah, definitely. We're currently working at the governance. We already have decided on a model. We will release more information about this soon. So we are planning to include some form of governance in sometime in November, so very early already.
So I'll just add, with regards to governance, why have we chosen to have a system that has any governance at all? Right? Because if you think about Bitcoin, for example, it has basically no governance, and that is a good design feature for Bitcoin, because you don't want Bitcoin to change. On the other hand, we're not building a currency. We're building a product, and products do need to adapt and to change and to upgrade. And so for that reason, if you want to be able to do that without having someone in control, you need to allow the users and the community of token holders to be able to choose what upgrades they want. And so for that reason, we are introducing a form of decentralized governance, which is also going to answer one of the questions here, which is, do we have a token? And the answer is yes, we have a token called the SOV token. And the SOV token gives people who hold it the right to participate in governance and to earn the fees from the system. So you can think of Sovryn as a business, but a business without a corporation. There's no corporation, it's not registered anywhere. Or maybe more accurately, the only place that is registered is on the RSK blockchain. And so instead of being governed by courts of law, it's governed by consensus. And so people who hold the Sovryn token can stake. The longer you stake for, and therefore saying that you have a long-term view of the system, you're interested in the system for the long term, the more voting power you will get, and the bigger the share of the revenue from the system you will earn. There's two questions here. One question is, how can we, the people asking the question, help us? And I think we'll get to that towards the end because we would love your help. So I'm going to skip to another question which has been asked, and we'll come back to that question. Is RSK better than Ethereum? Aurora, I'm going to let you field that one.
Oh, okay. So I do not want to hurt any feelings here. But we prefer to build on RSK, and it has its reasons. In general, what I like about RSK is that I do not have to hold any other currency than Bitcoin, because basically I send my Bitcoin through the pack, and when I interact with smart contracts on RSK, I can pay my transaction fees in Bitcoin instead of Ethereum, which is something I appreciate. And I also appreciate that it's merge mined with Bitcoin. And yeah, well, maybe also and do not know if you're also in, well, some of you do, because 50% of you were using Rep Bitcoin on Ethereum. So I think you also realize the transaction fees. So this is one more reason why I would prefer to use applications on RSK, just because transaction fees are much more reasonable. I think you could add a huge number of other reasons. Edan, I think you maybe?
Well, I mean, some of the things that I like about RSK are the same things that Ororo likes about RSK, but there's also questions around the security of the system. So RSK is merge mined with Bitcoin, which means that about right now, 40% of the hash power of Bitcoin is actually protecting RSK as well. This makes the hash power or the proof of work security behind RSK an order of magnitude greater than the hash power protecting Ethereum. So not only do you get the benefits of being part of the Bitcoin ecosystem and only having to use Bitcoin, you also get the benefits of the increased security of the Bitcoin ecosystem and reduced fees. So to me, it's absolutely a no-brainer that if we want to start building something new, and especially something that Bitcoiners will use, we would use RSK. So we have, let me see. I think there are 2 more questions. One question is, how do I move BTC to RSK and back? Aurora?
Yeah, so basically there are 2 ways. There's the, let's say, traditional way, the two-way peg, which allows you to send your Bitcoin through the bridge. You send it to a Bitcoin address to get it on the RSK side, and from the RSK side you send it to a smart contract and then get back the money on the Bitcoin side. And I think the RSK team is having better documentation about how it is working. We would also like to integrate an interface for this on Sovryn, so it's easy to use for everybody who wants to interact with the system. But for those, because the two-way peg, it's a very safe and secure way of doing so, but it also takes a while, about 16 hours, until you get your Bitcoin on RSK. So we built a faster alternative, which we call FastBTC, and it allows you to send your funds to a Bitcoin multi-sig wallet, which then sends it through the pack for you, but you do not have to wait for the funds to actually arrive, because you will already be granted the funds as soon as you have one confirmation on Bitcoin. This is currently limited to, I'm not sure what's the limit, a couple of $100.
Right. Although hopefully we will soon raise that limit and maybe eliminate it.
Yeah. So the FastBTC will be helpful to move your funds onto RSK. And for the way back, in the first place, we're going to set on the two-way peg. So we're going to build a very easy to use interface so everybody can move the funds back to Bitcoin at any point in time.
Awesome. And then I think there's one last question, and it was a great question. How can you help us, or rather, what kind of help do we need? And I think there's, lots of different ways that you guys could help. We're trying to build an entirely new system and an entirely new ecosystem. So if you have developer skills, you can come and help verify that what we're doing is correct, or you could even help build the system. We're constantly putting out bounties to try and provide ways for the community to help. Right now, for example, we would like people to help us building out a database. We'd like people to help us building out a forum. You can also, if you are more artistically minded, to come help us create the art, the graphics, and the comics world that we're creating, as well as help generate memes and spread memes which teach people about how they can be sovereign. If you can provide us with help around translations or content, that would be extremely helpful as well. And you can always pop into our Discord and see the various bounties that are available. But there are two things which we think anyone can help with, and we will always want and need. And that is, one, if you can come test the system, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, tell us why we were idiots, criticize us. We love that. We always want to improve the system. And we are very, very grateful that a lot of people have been giving us a great deal of feedback around Sovryn, and it's helped improve Sovryn immensely, even over the last few weeks. The other and most important thing is, you can share the gift of sovereignty with your friends. Tell your friends how they can be sovereign, how they can stop giving up control to centralized exchanges, stop lending their funds on centralized services, stop having to use extremely slow and expensive systems like Ethereum, because there is an alternative now. It's called Sovryn, and we'd love to see you all use it. So I think we've covered all of the questions. I hope that was helpful. We'd love to see you all come out and try the system. And maybe, Francisco, we can bring the call to an end. And before we do, I'd like to thank everyone who took time tonight to come and learn more about Sovryn and talk to us.
Well, great. I'm back here right now. Well, thanks, Yago. Thanks, Ororo. I think it was very clear explanation. Of course, as always, you will receive an email with the recording, and you can always ask us the questions you need. Remember, we have an open chat box, the 24 hours on our developers landing page on RSK. And if you have a question particular for Ororo, for Yago, you can also let us know through there, or you can write to me directly, or you can write them. We will try to answer everything you want. And well, as Yago just said, and also as Ororo, we invite you all to use Sovryn. Well, right here, she wrote us the link again. So please try it. And well, I hope to see you everybody again soon. Okay. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.